So when I came to Geneva, I didn't tell her anything. I just said that, okay, I prepared you a present and my friend is living in Geneva. So please give me the address of your hotel and he's going to come and give you my present. And she wrote me in WhatsApp the address of her hostel. And then in a couple of hours, I come into her and just like texting her in the WhatsApp, my friend is there, just like come to the entrance of her hostel. And she come in downstairs and meet there. And we're kissing, she's crying, and all of these cute, sensible moments.
Welcome to International Love Story, the podcast about intercultural relationships. My name is Christina, and in today's podcast episode, I would like to welcome Andrii and Rachel. Rachel is Canadian and Andrii is Ukrainian, and they both have an incredible love story to share, so I'm so excited to do a deep dive today. They met by chance while on vacation in Gran Canaria for an end-of-the-year trip. And now they're living in Canada, sharing some fun content on social media, offering glimpses into their lives and highlighting their cultural differences. I'm so happy to welcome you today. And as mentioned before, I can't wait to do a deep dive. So let's just get right into it. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Who are you? What are you doing? Tell us all about you.
Sure. I'm going to start. So my name is Rachel, like you said. I am Canadian. The little thing that I like to add is that I'm Francophone Canadian, like we used to call French Canadian. That's not something I like to say because I speak French, but I'm not French. But yeah, I'm from Quebec, the province of Quebec. I've been teaching French for a couple of years now. And that's pretty much about me.
Cool. My name is Andrii. I was born and raised in Ukraine. Then a long time ago, I moved to Germany. I was finishing my bachelor degree and then working in Germany. I had the first internship. When I was working in Germany, I had a vacation at my work. So I decided to go with my friends to Gran Canaria. There I met this beautiful lady. Afterwards, we were living together in Germany one more year. And we decided to move to Canada to take on a new challenge, to change our life a bit and try something new. And we are currently recording the video from our Latin America trip that we're doing already 1 month. And we left Canada for an indefinite period of time, seeking for adventure.
Yeah, like we like to do.
Like we like to do, yes.
So when we go back a little bit between where you're nowadays and where it all started, as you've mentioned, Andrii, and as I've mentioned in the little introduction, you guys met on Gran Canaria. When was it and how did it all start? I know a little bit. I know that your love story started, or you met in a hostel, and your love story really started to take off on, I think, on Rachel's last day on Gran Canaria, right?
Yes, it kind of did. You're correct. You have the right information. So at the time, I was living and working in Spain, not in Gran Canaria, though, on the mainland. And you were living in Germany. We were both on vacation for a New Year in Gran Canaria. We checked in, if I'm not wrong, on the 30th of December in that hostel. So we checked in same day in the same hostel, almost at the same time. I checked in like 1 hour previously to him. So we did cross that day. And what's kind of funny is that the owner of that hostel was Canadian. And that was the first Canadian he had seen in 2 years, I guess because of COVID at the time.
Yeah.
So he was super excited about me being there. And I'm a kind of a shy person. So, but him, it did not matter. He wanted to present me to everybody, saying, hey, we have Rachel, the Canadian here. So he did that with me and his friends. He was traveling with 2 of his friends. And by the time I was just like waving to everybody, just like, hey, hello, I'm just heading to the beach. I don't have nothing much to say. I'm recording something. And then
It's just, this story is indeed very amazing because at the end of the, we'll have to compare all the things right now over the time and we understand that what if we booked at that time our vacation in a different dates or in a different hostels. So what a coincidence that we really booked this thing in one hostel and we checked in at the same time. And again, coming back to the point of this kind of COVID, I don't know, like there are a lot of factors that influence the situation at that time, because at the end of the day, probably if this host, the owner of the hostel, Brian, I remember his name till today, he's from Alberta. from Canada. If there was no COVID, probably there were more tourists from Canada, and he was not really so surprised and so happy to see the compatriot the first time for 2 years, and therefore probably he wouldn't introduce her to everybody. But it was a bit...
And me being shy, I don't think I would have introduced myself to everybody in the hostel.
Yeah,
Would not have that.
I remember that moment, like once we came to the hostel, just like really made a first step into this building, and this crazy owner who was happy to introduce her, like, look at this is my compatriot, she's from Canada. And I was like, are you drunk? Why would the host present the compatriot to everybody who enter in the hostel? And then like, no, because I'm hosting here already in Gran Canaria 2 years of different tourists all over the world, and this is my first compatriot for 2 years, so I'm happy to see her, even though she's from Quebec. This is completely different culture.
Yeah, but then what happened the following day? So that day, this is how I went to my way to the beach. The following morning, I was getting ready, and I had basically no plan for this trip. I just booked a hostel. I was like, I'm on vacation alone. We'll see who I meet and what I end up doing. And I was getting myself ready in the corridor, and he saw me, and he said, hey, Rachel, why don't you go with the boys? Which was him and his 2 friends. They were planning to go to a volcano, correct? And he asked me, why don't you go with them? And I was a bit like, well, it's 3 young boys traveling by themselves. I don't think they want to go with me. Like, that's a weird match. I was like, well, I don't think they're really interested. But then for a question of like how we would get there, maybe there was this option of sharing a taxi. So they were interested because then we would share the cost. And me too, like, oh, well, if then I have people to go with, I would probably go to this volcano. And it was not still uncertain in this taxi thing. So I ended up being, okay, well, I'm going to go grab some food. It was for breakfast. So I left the hostel. And you guys actually left to find a place to eat breakfast, correct?
Yeah.
And we ended up outside the hostel meeting again in the street. And since that exact moment, I think I've never really left you. Exactly. During that trip. We went to the volcano together. There was New Year's Eve, 31st of December. We spent the whole day there. We came back to hostel at night. There was a little party, a barbecue thing. We spent time together. And then during the night, there was a lot of people, a lot of things going on. You left with your friends at the beach. I stayed at the hostel. And then he was actually going to another place. Mia was staying the whole time on that same hostel. He was leaving the following day on the 1st of January, correct?
Yeah.
To another city nearby and to another accommodation. So I thought that night that was the last time we had seen each other because he was leaving the next morning and he left and did his things with his friends. But just before leaving, he's like, oh, hey, we saw each other again in the corridor, like we're about to leave. We exchanged phone numbers, correct? Mm-hmm. And just later that day, he texted me saying like, oh, this place is amazing, where they were at. You need to visit. If you want, I asked the boys, they're willing. We have one more like couch bed in the living room if you would like to spend the night and visit. And at the beginning, I was not certain. I was like, oh, I was really traveling alone. I didn't want people to make plans for me. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, the following morning, I was like, well, if your invitation is still on, because I was sleeping terribly in the hostel, I wouldn't mind spending one night at your place and visiting a new city. So I took the bus, went to their place, and yeah, like, then the following days we're spending every day together, me and his friends, until the day I left. We left before you, but we left the same day or so.
Yeah.
And this is really when I felt like, oh, that was not just, how can I explain it? I felt like it was not just one thing for just a little trip, a little adventure for a trip. I felt like I was really sad of leaving. And I feel like we had something deeper and bigger than just an adventure of not even 1 week on an island. And every day we texted each other since then, not one day skipped. I ended up visiting him a couple weeks after in Germany. And yeah, that's the moment I told him, I think I love you and I think I want to be with you.
Yeah, that's kind of a long story short.
It's very fast. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is a very long story.
So when was it exactly? Which year did you meet? Was it 2022? 2021.
And the 29th or 30th of December, we checked in, and this is what the first meeting of 2021. And Brian, the owner of the hostel, was a perfect middleman in our relationship. So she basically showed the initiative from his side to take care of her because he saw that she was alone, she was traveling alone, and we were basically the same age with my friends and Rachel, and he was like, why are you staying alone? Go with them. He didn't even ask anything about this.
If you guys wanted to, I know.
If we wanted to know.
This morning I was like, oh my God, I'm a shy person. I don't think I would be so upfront, but here,
Yeah.
did not worry about anything.
For now, I'm still like making a small joke that at some point, if we will have son in our family, child, we're gonna call him Brian because this is the name of the owner of this photo.
Are you still in contact with Brian? May I ask?
No,
No, I don't think so. But we actually had some kind of small plans to really go to Gran Canaria one more time and really use this hostel again and show that, like, thank you, Brian, for this.
Maybe he does not remember us because we don't know if he's been doing matching for a while or if he did it again. But at least us, we will never forget him. So.
Exactly.
That's so funny. That's so funny. I love that. I love how people, like random people, just jump into your life and bring people together. That's so beautiful. And so shortly after you said your goodbyes, you, Rachel, you visited Andrii in Germany. And this is when the spark really hit over. Like, this is when you, Rachel, you realized, okay, that's someone I want to keep on being in touch with. And what was it exactly? Do you remember? Like, how did it feel when you told him, like, hey, I think I fell in love?
That's a good question. Like I said, since that trip, we were in contact every single day. We texted each other a lot. We even did some video calls during those weeks. And I could see that I really, really liked him, and we had a good friendship at the time. Mm-hmm. It was. So when I visited him, to me, it was confirmed, okay, is this friendship or it's a love thing or so? But I was going in without expectation, just like, I want to explore and see. Because at the time, I must say that I really was the type of person who was not looking for a relationship at all. I was like, this is not for me. I'm a solo travel person. Like, I love my independence. Love is not for me, at least at that moment in my life. So I'm like, okay, we're going to see if this is more than friendship or not, just by interest. And when I got to his place, I felt like it wasn't, I wouldn't say like home, but almost like home since the very beginning that I entered his life in his apartment. Everything was meant to be cozy for me. He had bought vegetarian food for me, and just to make sure that I would have something to eat when I get home from the airport. He bought flowers. He carried my luggage. He was like, please be at ease. You bought special soap for the shower for me that were like women. So it would be not his axe or something. And we spent the whole weekend really together connecting. And I was like, might sound crazy, but I could see myself coming back and living here with you in this apartment because I feel absolutely good. It feels like I have been here before, even though I had never been there before. And it felt to me like we had met only a month prior to that or so, but it felt like we knew each other for so much more than that. So like, I'm going to take the risk. And before I came back to Spain, I told him, I love you. I do. And it's like, if you're into this vibe or not, if you're not too scared by me telling you that, then you might go forward. But if not, I'm telling you now. So I'm not wasting more time in keep coming back to Germany and having this pain if you're going to tell me, no, I'm not interested. So to me, it was, okay, I think it's time to tell him now and we'll see. Was it a bit scary at the beginning?
It was quite wild, I would say, because when somebody says that I love you after 7 days meeting you in their life.
In person,
yeah, of course, we met.
That's very brave, yeah.
Exactly. And there was the point that we discussed a lot of times that Rachel came to me afterwards. It was in January. Then she came to me. We met after January at the beginning of March in Mallorca. And then she came to me one more time in April. So before we moved together, we saw in life basically like 3 times each other.
4 times with Gran Canaria.
Yeah, 4 times with Gran Canaria. And then we were discussing that a lot of times that the things going too fast in our relationship, but it's not bad. We just need to accept that because you know how it's happening with a lot of couples when they just like rushing a bit the things and then they just getting to know each other closer or better and then they just splitting because they didn't know each other very good before they moved it out. So yeah.
But in our case, it was really fast. All of this was super fast. But for both of us, we had been in 1 or 2 serious relationships before. I'd seen in 1, I think. So we were not the kind of people that would say I love you here and there all the time. Not allow me. It takes me years after a relationship to feel at ease with somebody else. But it felt somehow, even though it was fast, very natural.
Yeah, it was natural.
Which was a good sign of like things are going very fast, but it doesn't feel wrong at all. So then we might just continue like this. And since we're still here together.
That's pretty much the short story. That's true. I'm just trying to imagine, Andrii, when Rachel told you like, hey, I love you. I mean, obviously you responded back in a way that you guys stick together and you made it work. And what was your response back then? Do you remember? Or was it just like...
I do. The thing is, honestly speaking, I didn't answer the same at that moment when she told me I love you, because I was kind of shocked. I was really surprised by that. But I said it at the end of the trip, when like day or 2 days before the moment she left Hamburg. I said it to her because I was thinking about her words, and I was thinking like, if those words are really sincere words, and if I feel the same. And in a couple of days after her statement, I just made a conclusion that I feel the same.
So I remember it quite vividly when Nacho told me that he loves me. So he actually didn't say that he loves me. He said like, hey, I don't want to wake up without you anymore, which was so cute. It's so cheesy, but he's like, he's so Latino and so many things. But I will never forget the feeling I had in that very moment, and how happy I was. That just felt so natural, as you just said, like, no matter what. And I mean, cultural differences aside and distance aside, we're gonna make it work somehow. And that's also what you decided for, which is so lovely to see you guys together on your adventure through Latin America. Or are you traveling through America in general?
No, we're South America.
Yeah, we're Latin America.
Yeah. Nice. So moving from there on, it just, as you just mentioned, it just went super, super fast. You moved in together. So Rachel, you moved to Germany. You even, and I saw that on Instagram, you had an offer for Mexico, and which was your dream job at that time. Yes. And you decided against it and decided to follow your heart and to just take a shot and try it out.
Yes, at the time we're talking, we are in May, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 months after we first met, my contract in Spain was ending, and I had the option in the following September to take the job in Mexico, which was a job I had applied to 3 years in a row, but it was 2 years in a row canceled because of COVID. And prior to these 3 years in a row applying, the 2 years before that, I knew I would want to apply 2 years later. That was like work of, we're talking 4 or 5 years that I was like, maybe I want this job. Next thing I'm doing after COVID is going to Mexico and have this job. But then in May, it was time for me to go back to Canada, and I had 2 options. So I go back home in Canada to make my visa for Mexico, for that job in Mexico, or I go home to make my visa for Germany to go live with it. And it was a bit hard because I am somebody, as I said before, I've been traveling. I had traveled alone, solo for years. I had lived 2 times abroad, like by myself. And I was like, I don't let any man stop me from any of my ideas and goals and adventures. Nobody will, I don't care if I'm going alone, at least I'm going. I had this big mindset of like, I'm not gonna let somebody come into my life and stop my dreams and my goals. But then I really thought about it. I was like, okay, what I really want deep down is not take that job in Mexico. And I feel like in those couple of weeks only, there was a lot of signs in my life that were telling me to not go to Mexico for many reasons. When I got sick, one was financially, the job was not really paying good, and I was not in a good position financially. There was a lot of signs building up. And like, not only these signs are telling me this is not the good place, not a good time to take that job in Mexico, to go to Mexico, but deep down, what I really want is to have somebody to wake up to share my life, somebody that I love, that makes me smile, somebody to go on trips with. We had so much fun together. We had the same goals too, of traveling, exploring new places. So I decided to make my visa for Germany. And 6 months after being home in Canada, like, okay, it's time to leave. I'm going to Germany now. And I moved in with him, even though we had seen each other in person 5 times. That was it.
Yeah.
How do we say in English? A leap of faith? Isn't to take a leap of faith. But I feel like it was the right thing to do.
Just so amazing that, I mean, you've just explained that you applied for that job 3 times. And then the right person steps into your life and you're just like, okay, fun direction. Let's move to Germany instead of Mexico.
I know. And never, and I said it multiple times, never in my life I would have imagined myself living in Germany. Never. Out of all the countries in the world, this would be at the bottom. Not that I don't like Germany. Before I had any bad thoughts regarding Germany, I was into this Latin, Spanish-speaking countries. I had never traveled to Germany before. And it was not that kind of culture or language that I had an interest for. Anyway, nothing in my life would have made me think I would move to Germany. But then, when the right person comes, I had this opportunity and I'm like, I think this is where life actually wants me to go and be. So I did it and never didn't regret once again.
When you moved to Germany, how was it? I mean, for the both of you. I mean, on the one side, Andrii, you welcoming her, making sure that she has everything she needs, that she's ready to go, basically, that she feels comfortable at home. And Rachel, on the other hand, that didn't really want to go to Germany, but suddenly she found herself there, living in the country she didn't see herself in.
In a country where I didn't speak the language and I didn't know one sentence of German.
Yeah, I just want to put my 5 cents in this kind of story because this is, in my opinion, very important detail. Before Rachel left Europe and came back to Canada, so basically, I mentioned before that she came to me in April for a couple of weeks for Easter holidays, and we spent again amazing springtime in Hamburg. And after that, when we said goodbye to each other, I thought that I see her really last time, but I was still sure that she gonna come back. And at the end of April, beginning of May, she had the last trip before leaving Spain. She had the planned trip to Switzerland, to Geneva, and she had to meet there with her friend. And I didn't plan to go to Geneva, but at the last day, her friend said that the plans changed and she cannot meet with her in Geneva. So Rachel was supposed to be there alone and spend time in Geneva solo trip.
Yeah.
So at the night when I found out that the plans of her friend changed, I bought the ticket and I was Deutsche Bahn, 9 hours. I went to Geneva. I didn't tell her anything. And
can I say something?
Yeah.
I'll continue. And this is really funny because the night before, I looked at the prices of flight tickets from Hamburg to Switzerland. So I was thinking, if they're not too expensive, I think I'm going to buy one for him because I would really like that we see each other again for a weekend. But at the time, like I said previously, for different reasons in my life, financially, I was not at the best and the tickets were super expensive. I think it was 400 euros one way, something I was like, okay, I cannot make it happen. And that morning I left for the airport and I felt a bit sad knowing that I was excited to go on the trip, but because he was not there, I felt sad. I was like, oh, I'm going there, I'm happy about that. But because he won't be there, I felt this a bit of sadness and then continue with the story.
Exactly. So when I came to Geneva, I didn't tell her anything. I just said that, okay, I prepared you a present and my friend is living in Geneva. So please give me the address of your hotel and he's going to come and give you my present. And she wrote me in WhatsApp the address of her hostel. And then in a couple of hours, I come into her and just texting her in the WhatsApp, my friend is there, just come to the entrance of her hostel. And she come in downstairs and me there. And we're kissing, she's crying, and all of these cute, sensible moments.
Yeah, that was the best surprise of my life, I think.
Yes. And after that, I remember we spent 3 amazing days in Geneva, and I was staying on the embarkments, looking at the sunrise in Geneva, and I was thinking about that she's flying to Canada, and I do not know, because I said to her, this is your life, this is you who decide what do you want. You go to Mexico or you go again to Europe in any way. If you want to go back to Spain, I can come to you to Spain, even though I don't know the language, but it wouldn't stop me. Or if you want, you can come to Germany because I already rented and have a cute, cozy apartment there. So you're welcome. And yeah, I was not sure if she accepted my offer, but she did over time, over 1 month. And I think that fact, that meeting in Geneva, probably for me, it was the decisive one in the way that like it confirmed me that I would love to build something serious with you one more time. Yeah.
Well, to me, this is not what made me change my mind, I must say. Because previously to that, I was already starting to think about all of this. But yes, it did confirm when we left again, that I was like, oh, I think I want to be back in Germany faster than I'm thinking, or I could imagine, for sure.
Yeah.
When did you move to Germany exactly, Rachel?
Mid-June. So
that was but June 2023.
Yeah. So she basically, she left to Canada at the beginning of May. She organized super quickly visa for Germany.
6 weeks. I was back in June.
Yeah, and back in Germany.
Really lucky. Everything went very fast. Yes.
And what did you do in Germany, may I ask? Are you on job hunt, or were you able to do like remote work for a company in Canada?
Yes, actually, I came to Germany without so much plan. One thing I knew is I had to finish my master degree, but I was really lucky. It was a distance, so I could do my master degree from anywhere in the world. I had started in Spain, so I had to finish that. So like, this is perfect. I can keep doing that in Germany. And I was teaching French to Spanish speakers in Spain, to students I had in Spain. So it also was a good idea to go to Germany because I was back in the same time zone as them. So it was much easier than when I was in Canada and we had like 6 hours difference. So that's basically what I did was in Germany, finishing my master's degree, working online and teaching French. And
yeah.
Sound like you adapted super fast in Germany, because I mean, I mean, we have quite a story or a few stories to share as well. I mean, we lived in Germany for 5 years with little interruptions in between where we traveled in a camper van. But for Napshow, for example, it was super fast and super difficult. I know so many immigrants that are living in Germany that had a hard time for like 2 years or so until they felt like I'm slowly adapting, because it's just so different to anything they know.
But to me, it was really all thanks to Andrii, because if it was not for Andrii, like I said, I don't think I would have moved to Germany. I didn't know the language at all. And to me, German was not the kind of language I was excited to learn. To be honest, I'm sorry. I was not so motivated. And even the German culture, I liked it when I was there, but it's not a place where I would go by myself all alone. Opposite to Spain, where I feel like people are very welcoming and my kind of nature, my same personality or something maybe. Culturally, I felt like we were maybe a better match. So it is really thanks to him, because everywhere we go, he would translate for me. He came to me, how do you call in German this place for immigration? Yes, that we went to 1 billion times to get my paperwork done and all of this. And he helped so much. He came every time, facilitated for me, push people so it would get faster, so I could live and stay there legally. So it's all thanks to him. Really, he really helped me. Through him, I met some people in Germany, some friends. But other than that, I feel, include myself very well. I never really learned the language. I never found a job there. I never really made friends other than your friends in Germany. So it was not like the ideal place, I think, for me. But because I was with him, I was like, everything is okay.
You figured it out together.
But it was amazing, actually. I remember that summer. It was really cool summer, because we cut at that moment the €9 ticket in Germany, and we basically traveled all over Germany. We went to Bayern, we visited Alps, Nordrhein-Westfalen, Königse, everything was cool.
A lot.
Exactly. My mom came to me at that summer, so she met my mom first time. It was cool. It was really
absolutely
cool.
Trying to make the best out of it. I mean, again, I just know, because I've been in this situation you were, Andrii, where I have to accommodate someone that has just difficulties adjusting in the country this person is living in. And it can take a toll on both ends, to be honest, because obviously you feel like, or I did feel responsible that Nacho is living with me in Germany, because, I mean, obviously we decided to take this path together. So we both made the decision, but then I saw how much he struggled. Not really with the language, which really amazed me because he learned it so fast. So I'm so proud of him. But like making friends, for example, and then in the north of Germany, it's a little bit more difficult to make friends than anywhere else, I think, because we're maybe a little bit cold, at least for the outside perspective. And yeah, I definitely felt the pressure of making sure that he feels comfortable, that he has everything he needs. And it's definitely an experience. But you guys, you stayed in Germany for, I think, 1 year in total until you decided to take another adventure.
Yes, and this time it will be me welcoming him in my country, in this way. Yes, after a while in Germany, I knew, or unless I would make big changes and start learning the language and all of it, that it was not my forever place. But it's not something that I purposely communicated with, like, hey, I would like to leave Germany, not at all. That was not on my mind. But him on his side, he was showing signs, and he mentioned a couple of times that he was getting a bit, should I say, sick of being Germany, seeking new things, new adventures. He felt like he had been there long enough. He didn't enjoy his work that he had at that moment. He had been living in Hamburg for a couple of years too, so he felt like he had seen most of it already. And there was this option of going to Canada. And I was not even sure we would be going to Canada at all. It's really him who came up to me and like, we could be doing that. I could ask for a visa. I was like, yeah, why not? A work visa. Sure. So at least you have it because it would last for 3 years. So in my head, it was like, I'm not even sure we're going to go to Canada, but at least you will have it for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
And sooner than later, we were buying tickets to go to Canada. He quit his job. We sold everything in Germany and we ended up in Canada sooner than I would even believe.
Yeah, it was quite fast. I remember my parents were also shocked because they thought that I will settle down in Germany because I was living there 5 years already, and they thought that everything is cool. I have stable life, work, apartment, everything. And then I just saying them that I'm going to Canada, and they just like, why? What is going on in your life? And I just said that it's time to move. I feel that I cannot live life when I don't enjoy that, when I every morning waking up and then feel that something wrong. Yeah.
It was also an opportunity to meet my family, my friends, to see my country too. So we were pretty excited about that.
Exactly. So basically, we were talking about kind of possibility how we're going to meet Rachel's parents. And at that time, we were looking for the opportunities for visa because with Ukrainian passports, Ukrainians need to have visa to move to Canada.
To visit Canada.
Exactly, to visit Canada for traveling. So we were looking for the opportunities. How could we go to Canada with the simplest way to meet her parents? I don't know, for example, for Christmas or for any summer holidays. And then I just yeah, but we could not only visit your parents, we could go there longer. So let's try something bigger. And that's how we moved to Canada. And this is this step that I enjoyed really much. And it was cool. I'm still happy that we made that step. Yeah.
No regrets.
No regrets.
It's also so different to anything else you've experienced before, or is it culture-wise very similar to Germany? Like how is Canada? How do you experience it?
It's completely different from European life. And we have plenty of videos on our channels regarding how I'm assimilating in Canada, how all of these kind of culture shocking things going on to me. I remember the first day after I waking up, I didn't have jet lag, anything like that, but I just leaving the Rachel's home and I'm staying, and I remember I had this feeling like I'm on another planet. And it was cool. After that, a couple of days, I was also reflecting on how Rachel moved to me in Germany. And then I understood that, for example, if our intercultural relationship were not like Canadian and Ukrainian, but for example, Polish and German people, culture-wise, they are not too far from each other. Or I don't know, Czech people and German people, of course, every culture has differences, but if you move in together, there are a lot of similarities. She moved from Canada, especially from the Quebec, which is completely different territory with different culture and everything. And she moved to Germany, and then I understood how was it probably difficult for her not to speak French, not to be in this atmosphere that she used to be. This is pretty I think that you can understand me, because if your boyfriend is from Argentina, this is completely also different nature, their cultural and everything.
Completely different. Yeah, even though I understand Spanish, like not all of it, trying to speak, but yeah, I'm having a hard time right now to adjust. It's part of the process.
Yeah, so for me, like the first days, everything was like in the movies that I saw when I was a child. Everything, starting from the point of like, I don't know, Walmart, candies, yellow buses. It was everything like for me, wow, I cannot believe that.
My neighbor who's a crossing guard.
One of my favorite hobby, it sounds wild and weird for you guys, but like wild. My favorite hobby was just like at the afternoon when the sun is down, and in those people who saying that Canada is super cold and like -40, you live in these polar bears. No, guys, in Canada there is +40 in Montreal, and it's super hot. So my favorite hobby was like in the afternoon, just walking around the neighborhood and looking at these houses in the neighbors' houses, because it's so interesting. They are so different. Everything is different.
I remember you would want to take walks every night, just looking at the houses I had seen millions of times of my neighbors, because they look American style.
They look American, exactly. And I remember that my Canada starts from Quebec, and at that point, like really Canada conquered my heart. I love this country a lot. It's very beautiful, very friendly, very cozy. It's cool, which is like 11 out of 10 for me. I think that we talked about that Rachel was not thinking about Canada so good before she met me. And then with the new childish eyes, she saw that in a different angle.
It is true. It is correct. Yes.
Because obviously for you, this is where you grew up. You know the neighborhood, you know the houses, the whole environment. It's nothing special for you anymore. But once you start seeing it through someone else's eyes, it's like, yeah, it's actually not so bad here.
Exactly. And not only that, I had traveled in a lot of countries on different continents, but I did not travel parasiticating. I had not traveled so much in Canada, which was really surprising to him.
And this is where you're living at the moment as well, when you're not traveling around?
Kinda no, because our contracts are end in Yukon, and we decided to. It was amazing time in Yukon, and Yukon is really cozy and like remote place. You feel that differently, but we decided that Yukon is great, but this place cannot stop us to seek for other adventures. So we just pack everything in the car, drove to Vancouver, put the car on the parking lot, and right now we're monthly paying for this parking lot. Meanwhile, we're traveling. So we don't have any place to live permanently in Canada.
No. We still consider like we're living in Canada, but we don't really know where we are living currently, to be honest.
Yeah, like in the emergency case, we have the address of our parents in Quebec, but like we don't have, besides our car in Vancouver. Yes.
Well, so since when are you traveling around? So when did you park the car and pack your things to go on this adventure?
May, end of May?
Yeah, 23rd of May we parked the car in Vancouver, but we left Yukon on the 18th of May, so kind of mid-May.
And right now you're exploring Brazil. I know you recently went to Argentina before you went to Mexico.
To Chile.
And talking about, because I mean, this is also how we connect and how I connect with almost all of my guests through social media. And I find it quite interesting, like, first of all, that you're sharing a lot about your cultural differences as well. I think that's 70% or 60% of your content, correct me if I'm wrong, but in a very light and funny way that it's very relatable as well. And in just a very short amount of time, you build a very solid community, if I may say, because I'm following you since a while already. How is that for you? Like traveling around, content creation, working as well? Like, I'm very curious at what stage you're at the moment.
That's a good question. Let's say we've been doing this for almost 2 years now. It all started because of one cultural moment we lived, which is, we have addressed it like one time, I think, on social media, but we need to address it soon again. In Ukraine, the tradition wants that you sit omnicultural chair. Doesn't matter.
Okay, there were a couple of things. So first of all, a small correction. 2 years ago, in August, at the end of August, we started our TikTok. But our Instagram, we started basically in...
Couple months ago, like 6.
In this winter, I would say.
Not even a year ago.
Yeah, not even a year ago. And I remember this moment, and Rachel, remember, we were lying like before we went to bed and just remember in the moment how we started our social media. And we were in a train to Alps with a €9 ticket. And Rachel's just like saying, listen, when we were in the apartment, there was a weird moment. Why? Because in Ukrainian culture, there is one tradition that before we go somewhere to the trip, we need to sit for the road. And this is like a tradition that says that, I don't know like where are the roots of this tradition, but like this is very common tradition when people sit in the silence, and then a couple of seconds they sit in with the luggages, and then they live in their apartment. This is a tradition.
For good luck.
For good luck, yes, exactly.
Believe.
And the second thing was that she was shocked that I'm eating apples with heart, so the whole apple with seeds and everything. And she was like, what is this? We need to somehow show it to people.
My idea was that what we were going through, living those little moments, that was a new thing for me to sit before going on a trip. I didn't know why we would be doing that. I was like, I don't think we're the only one living those kind of moments that are to us very light and funny moments. Like, why are you sitting down? We're on a rush. We're going to miss the bus, or it was the metro or whatever. And I was like, we're not the only ones living this. And it would be very fun to share those on social media as a little clips of those cultural differences, that it'd be for Ukrainians and Canadians, but for any other people that are going through this.
Exactly.
And we started this without much ambition of just like, we're going to share and see if other people relate and if it speaks to some people. And it did.
Let's say in this way, the first video didn't shoot. The first video didn't shoot at all. But then we filmed the video that so far the biggest video on our channel. And this is the video that we filmed in Hamburg. Oh, are you here, Tina?
Yeah, now you're back again.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. So the first...
We're talking too much. This is what even the laptop is telling us the phone.
The first video about our differences, like sitting for the road and I'm eating the whole apple, got a couple of thousand. But the next video that Rachel said that is going to surprise Canadians for sure, it was filmed in Hamburg in Leginstrasse subway metro station, U-Bahn. And it was the escalator that goes back and forth, depends on where the people staying. And this video blew the mind of people. It got 14 million. A lot of people starting writing the comment that what is this? This is the future and everything. And this is basically how our social media started, with this video in Hamburg. A couple of people in Hamburg started to recognize us in the gym, for example. And it was like interesting. In Whitehorse, very small community of 28,000. A lot of people knew us like in the supermarkets, in the school.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Unexpected.
Unexpected, yeah.
How is it for you? Because right now you're sharing content just for fun. Is it a hobby? Is it your work as well? Is it your profession at this point?
And this is both, I would say.
All of this together, yeah.
Because we have put so much time and effort for the money we're making out of it that it's for sure a hobby. And we keep doing it because we love it too. And we have found, I didn't think before that I was a creative person. I found a way to be creative that I really enjoy. I think you also enjoy now creating videos, which we were not really expecting when we started. We really enjoy doing that. And with time, it did become a source of income. And hopefully we keep developing this source of income because it has brought so much opportunity. We're not going to lie. It is awesome to be doing this, connecting with people, sharing products, brands that we really enjoy, that we use and love. And in return, we receive an income from it.
Yeah,
it's really ideal for us. We were seeking something like this without even knowing we wanted it. But now that we had this opportunity, we really enjoy it. Yeah, we have learned a lot just by doing it.
Exactly.
And it has become with time also a project that we're both working on it together, that we enjoy it. And it has become much bigger than we were expecting, but it's also fun to have this, we call it business meeting because we like to take ourselves seriously, but it's not as big as it might sound it is. But it is fun to have a project like this with your partner that you both enjoy, that gives you opportunity, and that hopefully will bring us, even more. But it's really fun, even though sometimes it's not as easy. Working with your partner can get, conflictual sometimes maybe. But in general, it has brought so much positive into our lives, into our relationship too, that we're very grateful we started this.
Yeah, the most complicated things I would say is a combination of the regular full-time job that we had, plus taking that seriously and our social media seriously, because in general, then you have the schedule of 7 working days per week, because 5 days you work in the regular job, and then you have only 2 days to film the content, to edit the content for the whole week, and taking care of all of this. It was a bit frustrating, but at the same time, if you enjoy that, you don't feel tired, you don't feel so frustrated, you don't feel that this is something that overwhelms you, even though sometimes you're very tired. So yeah.
So I love that you call it business meetings, because it is a hobby, but on the other hand, you try to, on the long run, to build a life that allows you to live like wherever you want to live, and
hopefully
whatever you want to do,
Yes.
And that's the great part.
And I must say that, excuse me, I think a big major aspect of this is, thankfully, I had him to do this with, because you are right, it is a lot of work, a lot of pressure. There are days where there's more hate comments than positive comments, and being all alone up front, I would have given up a long time ago, even though I enjoy doing it. But there are days where it was too much. But thankfully, we were both doing this, and it has helped a lot, having each other in this. Even though there are days where drained, we don't have creative ideas, or we disagree, at least we have each other to push into this, because it's not always easy. Social media, like you said, you're right, it can be really draining.
And we also noticed a couple of different aspects. For example, when you consider that like your hobby, at the same time, you learn so much from the process. When you think that this is your business and now some source of income also might be in this field, you started learning in different platforms, in Instagram, in TikTok, and different platforms, they are programmed differently. And for example, how different everything changed, like in TikTok, after they started to push this 1 minute long plus video, our rate like dropped down drastically. We really had to have a business meeting to find out what the problem, how we can solve it. So it was really like recovering session and something. We also found out how many people have a huge accounts, like for 100+ K followers, but they do not have profit out of these accounts, like they're doing just for hobbies. Exactly, they don't monetize it. So probably like with our experience over time, when we get even more experience, we will be able to teach people a bit how to do it properly.
Help them.
Because we saw already so many profiles that just doing that, they don't receive money for that, and they're giving up on the mid of the way. So it's just,
Yeah, definitely you need your strategy, but that's something I think we can talk about for hours.
Yes, for sure.
Exactly.
As I've made my fair share of experience with this. And sometimes it's just like, I like the algorithm, and then I'm trying to remind myself why I'm actually doing this. I want to connect people. I want to build a community, And in my perspective, like in my opinion, it brought me a sense of ease as well, because I was able, similar to you, to connect with like-minded people, similar background as ours, exchange information, and support each other. And that's the great way, or the great thing social media offers. So I'm very curious where this is going to lead you. I'm definitely going to keep on following you. Obviously, I'm also going to link everything in the side note of the episode, as well as on the description of the YouTube video. There are actually 2 more questions I have for you, because a big topic, as mentioned on your channels, is cultural differences. What is actually the biggest cultural difference between you?
Biggest one.
Okay, I have a couple of things to say, but I'm going to try to keep it short, because I know I've been talking a lot. There's one thing I must say, is that we are from 2 different cultures, born on different continents, different mother tongues. So there's for sure we have some cultural differences for sure. But through that, we have found that we are so similar and have so many similar aspects in our life. Previously meeting each other too, that I would say sometimes I would have more conflict or disagreement with people from my own culture for sure than with Andrii. Sometimes we're coming from totally different background, but we can agree and meet each other in the middle on so many aspects. But one big cultural difference I remember, at least at the beginning, because it's been more than 2 years, so with time, I think everything is more easy, we get used to it. When we were still dating, let's say, I had not moved in with him yet. We met again in Spain, so we both flew from different places to meet there for a long weekend. And he had reserved the accommodation. He had paid for it in advance. And I remember writing him, okay, I'll just give you your information so I can send you half of the money, because I come from a culture where usually we split 50-50 the bills. And he was like, no, don't worry, we're going to talk about this during the trip. So like, okay, I'm fine with that. But I had in mind, therefore, during the trip, I need to be the one paying at least up to my part of the accommodation. So restaurant, different spendings. From the very first night, we're at the restaurant and he wants to pay. And I'm like, oh no, I already owe you money. I'm going to owe you more money. And it's a situation that I don't like. I don't like to owe money or have debt. Like, no, let me pay so at least I can reimburse a part of the accommodation. But he was not happy. And I ended up paying, and we left the restaurant. He was like, this cannot happen again. And I was a bit wondering, and we had this discussion because for him, he had to pay everything, absolutely. And me fighting for the bill in public, it was shocking for him. A form of disrespect, maybe to you. And this is when I realized, okay, we need to talk about finance and all of this, because I don't feel comfortable with somebody paying for everything all the time. So that was a big cultural difference. And now we're very fine with money and all of this. But at the beginning, it was like, oh, what is going on here?
What's a good one?
Do you remember? Or do you have currently still a big difference?
It's a good one. The thing is only, yes, you're right. Like when this situation happened, it's just like very similar to German's way. You probably know that in German, really, like they got used to paying the bill.
Sharing the bill
Completely, like what they ate or what they drank. Anyways, and in my perspective, this is still minor things. So this is still small little difference, not so huge that I consider that like a very huge difference. And therefore, I would love to say that like the biggest difference is in the small things. It really like split it apart, because really I cannot like distinguish the big and small. They're all for me small. There is not like super huge one. And all of this secret in minorities, in the way that like how we translate some words, how I'm eating apple, how she, I don't know, washing her face, how
little habits.
Exactly,
Yeah,
small little things. So
I must say that because we have started our relationship abroad, so not in his country, not in my home country either, I think it facilitated not having those big cultural differences, maybe at the very beginning, because I would imagine if you had come to Canada and we never met abroad, or I would have been to Ukraine and in Ukraine, maybe it is hardest to understand that for the other person, it's not normal, certain things, and why do they act like this? Because you are at home in an environment that you're very comfortable and that you're used to, so that it's hard to put yourself in the other person's shoes or have their perspective. But in our case, we started at the very beginning in a neutral place. I don't know if I can call it that way, but he was more familiar with Germany, but it was still not his home country. I had to adapt myself to Germany, but it was not so different from Canada. Like, yes, and I think it helped a lot to start on some easy ground, and from there discovered cultural differences from each other, but without this big, maybe shock at the beginning. I think
the thing that I would love to emphasize is that this huge difference is also the part of my personal opinion, this is also the part of our social media, which calls languages. And if I must, like literally must to say what is the biggest culture differences, this is a language, because everything goes from the language. Starting with the point like how you say the different proverbs, how you express emotions, music comes from the language. And music is part of the culture, how you communicate, yes, the intonation, the different swear words, everything comes from language. And it's not only like French and Ukrainian, it's every language, it's English, it's German,
but
Spanish.
For Thai, we are speaking a neutral language, as in we're communicating in English between us. So it's not like I every day have to force myself to speak your language, but for you it's easy. So you might not understand why it's hard for me to communicate and I'm drained some days. We both understand that there are moments that both of us, we don't know that word in English or we're tired, and we understand each other on this aspect because it's not like me or him is speaking their mother tongue and therefore it's much easier for one or the other. Does it make sense what I'm trying to say? Because for both of us, English is a second or a third language, and we have also it's the same level in English, I feel like. So we understand each other in this of like, today I struggle to speak English. Well, me too. Okay, this is how it is.
I mean, sometimes in our apartment, you can just like open the door and hear through languages simultaneously because something in TV in one language, she listening to her podcast in French, and I'm watching my video in YouTube in Ukrainian. So it's like...
Yeah. Definitely a mix, yeah. But what I feel about speaking English, I mean, it used to be much worse when starting to date Nacho. That was 8 years ago. It's crazy.
Oh.
And my English back then, it was okay, but it was school English. I wasn't really using it on a daily basis. So I struggled a lot, and his English was way better because at that time he used to live in Miami. And yeah, but even today, honestly, sometimes I'm like, sometimes it's exhausting to speak, to communicate in English, because sometimes you just want to say specific things in your mother tongue because it would be easier. And on the other hand, translating into English also, sorry for saying it like this, saved my ass quite often because in many things I'm very emotional. And if I would be able to speak it out directly in my mother tongue, I wouldn't really think about what I'm saying. And now I have this filter of translating in between. That helps a lot.
Yes, it's true.
Anyway.
That is why actually we started a long time ago our topic in social medias, which is languages. We have a lot of videos with languages because there was a situation when I'm trying to say something. I know that this phrase is 100% in my language. I'm trying to translate word to word because I'm not sure that this phrase actually exists in English, and this sounds very ridiculous. She's laughing like an animal, and we're just like, we need to film a TikTok about that.
Yes, language communication is a big part of
it's a big part of our channel actually also
in our lives. Yes,
brings us directly to my next question.
Yeah,
your biggest advice for everyone who's listening and or watching right now, maybe even similar backgrounds. What would it be?
We did a couple of times lives in Instagram and TikTok, and all the time there was a very common question like, guys, how did you meet? I would love to have such couple. I would love to have such experience and everything. How did you make it work? Yes, and everything. And the only one thing that I not stopping to repeat is that you need to be open to this world. Be open-minded, guys. Don't share negative things. Be really communicatable with everybody. Try to broaden your horizons. The big part of this also traveling, because if I didn't travel to Gran Canaria and you as well, it would never happen. So traveling also happened in general, just like this is probably very hard and would be hard for introverts if these kind of characters, but even those people can find...
Well, I'm kind of introvert and it happens.
Yeah, it's awesome. So it's not impossible. Just be open-minded, in my opinion. What would you say?
Me, it's more of an advice maybe for people that are starting an intercultural relationship. First thing is, I know, and we were very lucky because from our background, nobody had any second ideas or bad thoughts about me being with an Ukrainian and him being with Quebecois Canadian. But I know it can happen because of the difference of religion also too, not just countries. I think you have to be ready to face the judgment and not let yourself be influenced by those people. Don't get me wrong. If there are red flags in your partner, it's a good sign to listen to those around you who would flag them. But in general, those that have second ideas or their own ideas about people without really knowing your relationship, without really meeting that person or giving them a chance, just you have to be ready to face them or just put aside their ideas and their thoughts. Because I feel like in this kind of thing, people can have a lot of ideas about what is a relationship, but there's just really us who really know what is going on and not going on in there. And then be patient, because it will come with culture shock for sure. And sometimes you might wonder, why is my partner doing that or saying this or acting this way? I find it, from my perspective, maybe unpolite, mean, whatever you can think. It's probably because that person has a different culture, a different perspective, is not used to this, does not understand this aspect of your culture, etc. So you have to be very patient to try to understand the other side and communicate. Because often it starts with just we're misunderstanding because we have different habits, different cultures. And if you're not patient and you feel like you're attacking the other person already on this, well, it can explode for something that is usually just a little thing, like paying the bill in a restaurant. Simple as that.
Yeah, patience and communication is very important as well.
I agree. I love this. I love, because I mean, I've interviewed so many couples already, and the communication part is at some point is always a topic. I love that, but it's just underlining the importance in general. Thank you so much for sharing this. And yeah, to slowly come to an end, what's the best way to contact you guys? Everyone who wants to follow your journey, learn a little bit more about you, get in contact with you, what would be the way to do so?
I think to follow our social media, mainly Instagram and TikTok, to see our content and get to know us a bit better. But if somebody wants to directly communicate with us or have questions, I think the easiest is DM in Instagram. If we do not answer, because sometimes we receive too many DMs, please send another message.
Exactly.
We'll end up seeing it and we'll be very happy to answer questions.
Yeah. For other business questions, we have our email that is also available in our bio and Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
As mentioned before, but I link that obviously. Also, I can confirm you are very fast responding on Instagram. I was amazed. I thought usually it takes a while, especially if the account is a little bit bigger, for them to reply, which I totally understand. I mean, sometimes even in my case, and I by far have just like percentage-wise a little bit less than you do, but it can take a while as well for me because like life happens, very busy. But I feel like you do, like the community in general is very important to you. And I have the sense, or I can sense that you try to reply to every direct message you get.
We're trying our best. We're trying our best. Thank you for saying that, because sometimes I feel like we're so far behind on our DMs. We're trying our best.
I know. Thank you so much for being my guest today, for taking the time. And yeah, it was a pleasure to meet you. It was a pleasure to have to do a little deep dive. I know like the time doesn't give to tackle like every topic. There are so many more questions I would have, but as mentioned before, for people who are listening or watching right now, there's a way to get in contact with you directly. Definitely check out their social media accounts. It's always fun to see what you're doing, especially cultural differences. I mean, we do have so many as well in our intercultural relationship, and they make us laugh. Like we take it with a sense of ease. Yes, there are differences, as you've mentioned, and yes, compiled all of them, it can be a lot at some point or sometimes. But I think it's always a question on how do you approach it and how do you communicate and how do you deal with it. And I think also in our relationship, we found a great way to address specific things and to make jokes and fun about each other as well, which I love. And I feel like you're doing the same.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.